In Cleveland, sports radio feuds are practically part of the culture. Every fan has heard at least one heated rant from a local host defending or tearing down the Browns. But nobody expected that a rookie quarterback, a third stringer at that, would be the spark for one of the most awkward on-air meltdowns the city has seen in years. It all started on what was supposed to be a routine weekday segment. Tony Grossi, a Cleveland media veteran whose name every Browns fan knows, sat behind the mic ready to unload on Shedeur Sanders, the rookie with the famous last name who hasn't even had much time on the field yet. On paper, this should have been just another opinion piece, a seasoned sports voice giving a hot take about a young player trying to prove himself. Instead, what unfolded over the next few minutes left Grossi stumbling over his own words, listeners shaking their heads, and Browns fans rallying behind a quarterback many of them hadn't really seen play. The clash didn't come from a bold prediction or some trash-talking post on social media. It all started with one simple question, a question the media asked, not Shedeur himself. Do you feel ready to play? That's all it took. Shedeur's response wasn't flashy. He didn't throw teammates under the bus or demand a starting job. He simply said he felt ready. It was the kind of calm, confident answer you'd expect from any professional athlete. Yet somehow, that was enough to trigger an on-air rant that spiraled out of control. Within seconds, Tony's attempt to frame the rookie as attention-hungry collapsed under the weight of his own contradictions. What began as a routine radio hit turned into a live lesson in how narratives get twisted and how fast a commentator's argument can backfire when the facts don't match the storyline. This video breaks down exactly how that moment played out, why a casual radio clip became one of the most talked about exchanges in Cleveland sports this season, and how the youngest person in the conversation ended up looking like the most composed voice in the room. Because what happened wasn't just about football stats or depth charts. It was about confidence, perception, and how a simple two-sentence answer can expose the cracks in sports media's favorite narratives. Cleveland football has never been short of drama. The city lives and breathes the Browns, and when the team struggles, every throw and every quote is magnified. This season has been no exception. The offense is sputtered, the fan base is restless, and the talk radio airwaves have become a pressure valve for all that frustration. At the center of this storm sits Shedeur Sanders, a rookie quarterback with a famous football pedigree and the confidence that comes with it. Drafted with high expectations but buried on the depth chart as QB3, he's mostly been seen on the sidelines, waiting for his chance. Still, every word he says gets replayed and dissected as if he's already leading the huddle. On the other side is Tony Grossi, a Cleveland media veteran who has built his career on blunt takes and no-nonsense commentary. He's been covering the Browns long enough to remember every false start, every short-lived savior, and every heartbreak. That history has made him skeptical of hype around any new quarterback, especially one who hasn't proven himself in an NFL game yet. The Browns themselves haven't made things easier. The offense has struggled to score, the starting quarterbacks have been inconsistent or injured, and the fan base has been clamoring for change. In that atmosphere, even a harmless remark from a rookie can feel like a headline-worthy event. It's the perfect environment for tension between media voices desperate for a story and a young player trying to keep his head down. That's the backdrop for what happened next. An otherwise routine media scrum, just a quick interview with the rookie on the practice field, became the spark that lit up Cleveland talk shows for days. The key detail, Shedeur didn't seek out the cameras came to him. And the way that small fact got lost in the shouting match is what made the entire debate so revealing. The whole controversy started with one of the simplest questions in sports. Do you feel ready to play? It wasn't a trap. It wasn't even meant to stir drama. A sideline reporter from ESPN Cleveland casually tossed it to Shedeur during a routine post-practice chat. For most players, that question gets a standard answer and never makes it past the team's website or a short clip on social media. Shedeur's response couldn't have been more ordinary. He didn't puff out his chest or throw shade at the guys ahead of him on the depth chart. He didn't call for the starting job or suggest the coaches were wrong. He simply nodded and said he felt ready. It was the kind of calm, confident answer you'd expect from any professional athlete. Yet somehow, that was enough to trigger an on-air rant that spiraled out of control. Within seconds, Tony's attempt to frame the rookie as attention-hungry collapsed under the weight of his own contradictions. What began as a routine radio hit turned into a live lesson in how narratives get twisted and how fast a commentator's argument can backfire when the facts don't match the storyline.
That tiny spark, a single polite sentence, became the fuel Tony Grossi needed for one of his signature on-air tirades. And once he latched onto it, the entire conversation about Shedeur shifted from a rookie staying prepared to an alleged attention seeker chasing headlines. What happened next would show just how thin that narrative really was, and how fast it could collapse under the weight of its own contradictions. When the clip of Shedeur's calm answer started making the rounds, most local voices treated it like a non-story. A rookie saying he's ready to play? That's the kind of comment that usually gets a shrug and disappears by the next segment. But Tony Grossi saw an opening, a storyline he couldn't resist. On his next radio appearance, he came out swinging, describing Shedeur as a young quarterback who never met a camera he didn't like, implying that the rookie was desperate for the spotlight now that he was sitting at QB3 on a struggling Browns team. That single line set the tone for everything that followed. Instead of discussing the team's stagnant offense or the rookie's development, the conversation shifted to Shedeur's personality, as if being confident enough to answer a question made him guilty of chasing fame. Grossi painted a picture of a player obsessed with attention, hungry for viral clips, missing the rush of being in headlines during his college days. The problem was obvious from the start. None of it lined up with the facts. Shedeur hadn't called a press conference, hadn't posted on social media, hadn't even hinted at frustration with his spot on the depth chart. He answered a single question after practice, a question the station itself had asked. Yet here he was, being framed as some kind of self-promoter. That first jab landed with a splash. It grabbed attention, sparked calls from listeners, and set up the debate Grossi wanted to have. But it also exposed a crack in the argument. If the rookie wasn't the one chasing cameras, then the entire accusation started to look flimsy. Grossi's comment turned a routine clip into headline fuel. For a moment, it seemed like the veteran broadcaster had seized control of the narrative, until the contradictions in his own take began to unravel on live radio. And that's when the story stopped being about Shedeur's answer and started being about Tony's reaction. At first, Tony Grossi's criticism felt like standard Cleveland talk radio fire. A little harsh, a little over the top, but nothing out of the ordinary. Then the cracks started to show. While blasting Shedeur for supposedly craving attention, Tony made a casual admission that shifted the whole debate. He openly acknowledged that the Browns' offense was, in his words, awful, struggling to score points. He even pointed out that the veteran quarterbacks on the roster hadn't been delivering. That single comment should have stopped the argument in its tracks. If the offense was that bad with the starters, then it wasn't exactly outrageous for the rookie to believe he could do better. Instead of weakening Shedeur's position, Tony had unknowingly strengthened it, admitting out loud that the bar wasn't all that high to begin with. Then came the second crack. In the middle of his rant about Shedeur being desperate for the limelight, Tony conceded that the interview wasn't even initiated by the rookie. The media, his own colleagues, had approached Shedeur. They had asked the question, and the rookie answered. No staged cameras, no cryptic posts, just a straightforward response. It was the moment listeners realized Tony's argument was eating itself alive. The same host accusing Shedeur of chasing attention had just admitted the rookie hadn't sought it out. The contradiction was too obvious to ignore. From there, the rant unraveled in real time. Grossi kept circling back to the preseason Rams game, claiming he needed evidence that Shedeur can play. But that point fell flat too. Fans remembered that the rookie hadn't turned the ball over in that game, a crucial stat in Kevin Stefanski's conservative offensive system, while other backups had fumbled or thrown interceptions in limited action. Each attempt Tony made to double down only added fuel to the counter-argument. By the end of the segment, he'd essentially built a stronger case for giving Shedeur a chance than any of the rookie's own supporters had managed. Listeners could hear it. The energy in Tony's voice shifted from confident to defensive, then to almost flustered as he tried to square his points. The debate that started as a takedown of a rookie quarterback turned into a live demonstration of how not to win an argument.
It wasn't just a bad look. It was a full-blown on-air meltdown. The kind that makes for viral clips, not because of who was criticized, but because of how quickly the critic lost control of the narrative. While Tony Grossi's rant was making headlines, Shadur Sanders was doing what most rookies on the depth chart do, keeping his head down and sticking to the routine: meetings, drills, film sessions. He hadn't fired back on social media, hadn't clapped back in interviews, and hadn't hinted at frustration with his role. The only public words anyone could point to were the few calm sentences he'd said after practice: "I'm ready." That quiet confidence stood in sharp contrast to the noise around him. In a league where quarterbacks are often judged as much by their personalities as by their play, Shedeur's answer was the kind you expect from a professional who understands the spotlight. He didn't diminish the veterans ahead of him, didn't lobby for the starting job, and didn't sound entitled. It was the response of a competitor who believes in his own preparation, and nothing more. There's good reason for that confidence. At Colorado, Shedeur finished his college career as one of the most efficient passers in the country. He set program records for completion percentage, protected the football with one of the lowest turnover rates in the FBS, and earned national honors like the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award and Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. That resume is exactly why scouts viewed him as a first or second round NFL talent before the draft. Even in his limited preseason snaps with Cleveland, Shedeur showed flashes of the same discipline that made him stand out in college: smart decisions, no risky throws, and, most importantly in Kevin Stefanski's offense, 0 turnovers. He took a few sacks behind a shaky preseason offensive line, but he didn't give the ball away. For a coach who preaches protect the football, that trait matters more than highlight reel throws. Those facts rarely made it into the radio debate. Instead, the narrative focused on a supposed craving for attention that simply wasn't there. To many Browns fans, that contrast was glaring. The rookie kept his cool and stuck to football, while the veteran broadcaster was the one sounding emotional. That dynamic, calm professionalism from the player and a heated rant from the critic, ended up flipping public perception. Rather than looking like an unproven rookie talking big, Shedeur came off as composed, prepared, and quietly confident, while Tony's outburst made the whole controversy feel overblown. What began as a one-line answer in a sideline interview became an unintentional showcase of the rookie's poise. And that poise would set the tone for the larger conversation about why some quarterbacks get praised for swagger while others get criticized for the very same thing. The Shedeur Grossi debate might have started with a single interview clip, but it exposed something much deeper about how young quarterbacks get judged, not just in Cleveland, but across the NFL. Quarterback is the one position in sports where personality often gets dissected as much as performance. Fans want swagger, coaches want composure, broadcasters crave storylines, and somehow, depending on who the player is, the same trait can be praised one week and condemned the next. Take a step back and the contrast is hard to miss. When other young quarterbacks flash confidence, whether it's Jackson Dart rocking chains in press conferences or Caleb Williams painting his nails and calling himself a competitor, the coverage often frames it as charisma, swagger, or personality. It's seen as part of the modern athlete's brand. But when Shadur Sanders simply says he's ready to play, that same confidence suddenly gets framed as arrogance or attention-seeking. The difference isn't in the words, it's in the narrative being built around the player. That's why this story struck such a chord with Browns fans. It wasn't really about one preseason stat line or a single soundbite. It was about who's allowed to be confident, who's given the benefit of the doubt, and how quickly perception can shift based on a headline or a tone of voice. For Shedeur, the labels of arrogant or hungry for attention didn't match his actions. No trash talking, no social media jabs, no calls for a starting job. Meanwhile, the media personality accusing him of seeking the spotlight was the one going viral for a live on-air rant. This double standard revealed something bigger about the ecosystem surrounding young athletes. In today's sports media cycle, controversy often travels faster than facts. A player can be doing everything right, showing up on time, working hard in practice, answering a question politely, yet still become the centerpiece of a debate that has little to do with his actual performance.
For Cleveland, it also reignited an old tension. The city has spent years searching for the next franchise quarterback. Every time a new name arrives, there's an urge to either crown him or tear him down before he's had a chance to prove anything. That cycle has burned through veterans and rookies alike, and this time it happened before Shedeur even stepped under center in a regular season game. By the end of the week, the bigger picture was clear. The debate said less about Shedeur's readiness and far more about how easily narratives can overshadow reality. It showed how quickly a rookie can be branded as a distraction for simply expressing confidence, and how the court of public opinion often depends on who's holding the microphone. By the time the segment wrapped up, it was clear that Tony Grossi hadn't just lost the argument, he'd flipped the entire conversation in Shedeur's favor. What was meant to be a sharp takedown of a rookie quarterback became an accidental highlight reel for the very qualities Cleveland fans had been hoping to see in their young signal caller: poise, confidence, and quiet professionalism. Listeners picked up on the irony almost instantly. Tony had spent the better part of the show calling Shedeur attention-hungry, yet he was the one going viral for his emotional rant. The rookie stayed silent and focused on football, while the veteran broadcaster became the headline. Even funnier and more telling was how Tony's own words started supporting Shedeur's case. He admitted the Browns' offense had been awful, practically conceding that trying a different quarterback might not be so crazy. He admitted that the interview was initiated by the media, proving Shedeur hadn't been seeking the spotlight. He even agreed, in a roundabout way, that a quarterback should believe he's better than the competition. In trying to frame Shedeur as overconfident, Tony ended up painting a picture of a player who believed in himself, didn't stir drama, and was ready to contribute to a struggling team. Fans noticed. The debate on social media quickly shifted from questioning Shedeur's mindset to questioning why a veteran commentator seems so determined to criticize a rookie for simply showing the exact confidence every coach wants in a quarterback. The meltdown turned out to be more revealing about the state of Cleveland sports media than it was about the rookie himself. For years, the Browns fan base has grown weary of hot-take theatrics that focus more on drama than on actual football. Here was a perfect example of that. A storyline that backfired because it didn't line up with the facts. And so instead of leaving Shadur Sanders looking like an attention seeker, the exchange left him looking unbothered and ready, while the critic appeared reactionary and out of touch. The man who set out to question the rookie's composure ended up highlighting it for everyone to see. It's the kind of twist that only happens in sports media. The more Tony tried to prove his point, the more he disproved it. What was supposed to be a hit piece turned into free positive press for the rookie quarterback. A classic case of instant regret, playing out live, one radio segment at a time. When you strip away all the noise, this entire saga wasn't really about whether Shadur Sanders is ready to start for the Browns. It was about how fast a single sentence can be turned into a headline, how easily a narrative can outrun the facts, and how much power the person holding the microphone has in shaping public opinion. Shedeur never lobbied for the job. He never called out teammates or coaches. He simply gave the most basic answer a quarterback could give: "I'm ready." That's what you want to hear from a competitor. But the story that followed said more about the media's hunger for drama than it did about the rookie's mindset. Meanwhile, the one person accused of seeking attention was the only one who stayed silent while the cameras rolled. The critic who claimed the rookie was chasing headlines ended up creating them himself. It's a pattern that plays out across sports each season. When performance is slow to judge, personality becomes the storyline. The bigger lesson here is that confidence isn't arrogance, not when it's backed by preparation and professionalism. For Shadur Sanders, this moment became an unexpected introduction to the Cleveland fanbase. Calm under pressure, respectful in interviews, and willing to let his work speak louder than the noise around him. As for Tony Grossi, his on-air slip showed how easily hot takes can collapse when the facts don't line up. It's a reminder that sometimes the loudest voice in the room isn't the most accurate, it's just the most amplified. So now we want to hear from you. Did Tony go too far in criticizing a rookie for simply showing confidence? Or was this just the usual give and take that comes with covering the NFL? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'll be reading every one of them. If you enjoyed this breakdown of how one small interview turned into one of Cleveland's biggest sports stories of the week, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into the drama that drives the NFL conversation. There's always another story brewing, and we'll be here to unpack it.